Hi, Tea Society. Welcome back to the Antisocial Planet. Today we are taking out Mushi-shi episode 11, and this is about what the Sleeping Mountain, I think is what the episode is called, which is also interesting. In the last couple of episodes, we've had a lot of conversations about like moral dilemmas, which I think is really interesting. The last episode was about making something and wanting to like prove your skill in craft and having like your heart in the right place, but because the Mushi was trapped in the inkstone, that it ended up being not so great, and what it meant to keep something like that, right? When you know that like mushi are real and like the supernatural and folklore kind of things are actually real things that exist, and what does it mean to have possession of those items and they're not just like oddities to you, right? Because the like validity behind them. So I think it's interesting that we're getting a lot of topics about what is like an ethical way of interacting with mushi, and is there an ethical way to do it? Because even like Ginko has broken the rules and gone against what he's supposed to be doing a little bit with resurrection and immortality and all of that. So it's an interesting topic to dig into as we get like closer to the halfway mark. In 3, 2, 1, go. Always a nice gentle start. So yes, the Sleeping Mountain is what we're dealing with. So I'm assuming we're gonna have a mountain mushi of some kind, perhaps? I don't know. We had mountains in the last episode too. That was like the air pressure was part of what helped us get rid of the mushi. It's just interesting how they continue to like expand on a lot of it, right? Like, it's not just about like how do mushi work and what does it mean to kind of have this liminal space between like the world of mushi and the world of like humans, but also digging into like, again, those moral dilemmas of what does it mean to know that mushi exist and what they're capable of, and how do you then interact with the world, right? Whether or not that's like as a mushishi or like someone who's just like fascinated by supernatural elements, right? If you know that something is like otherworldly or has like a supernatural element to it, like does that corrupt you into using it? Does that mean that you're more cautious around it? It's an interesting kind of dilemma to be like, how do you, because if the mushi are like a natural force, right? It's kind of like trying to control nature, which usually doesn't go well for anyone involved. See what we get into this go round. Yeah, I was like, is that like a perfect hole through that mountain? It's unsettling. I don't like it. I don't like that it's like a perfect hole. Like it's a perfect circle, and that bothers me so much. Like it should be irregular. Yes? Someone go up to the mountain. Eavesdropping. Some looks of like, who are you? A little smirk. Quite a reaction. I think it's so interesting, like how the slowness with which he like knelt down, like shows his age before we even see him. The animation is like surprisingly good for how like minimal a bunch of it is. Okay, we have someone who communicates with the mountain, who's a Mushi-shi. Again, is this like watching out for them? Or again, is this like an ethical question of interacting with Mushi? Okay, so we're at least trying to protect people. That's good. Ooh, I love the like it seems sweet and also a little bitter. I think it's interesting we saw like the fruit trees as well. Yeah, like it's harvest and like fruit is usually a symbol of like fertility and uh like new life and all of that, but also I think of like Garden of Eden, right? Forbidden fruit. Yeah, I was like, there's someone around with those slides. He's like, hey, slap, slap. Surprisingly trusting. Leaving the shoes behind. Ah. Oh. Burrow your consciousness into them seems like a lot to just like throw around. I think it's interesting again to have those like shallow bowls with what I'm assuming is like sake or something, like something like very similar to what we got in like the first episode, second episode, earlier on, right? Bringing back the world building. Ooh, scary. The eyes are scary. I think it's a trick he took the shoes off that's kind of like grounding, right? Like being able to feel the earth a little bit better. Uh, why is there a mystery bell? Yeah, it looks like the hat's been there for a second. I don't know, was that like the eyes though? I don't know. Is he the person that we saw with the hat? He wasn't wearing the hat when they found him though. And it was an unnerving image and I'm just like, I'm suspicious. Also, since this seems like a happy ending, we're only like a third of the way through this episode, and I'm like, sus. So the Guardian is what we saw? Hmm. Okay, so we're the Guardian. Cool image. Like flashing through. Mm, by accident. It's really hard to kill someone by accident. It's really interesting to have this like guardian, right? Like the actual guardian, almost looking like a deer or stag or something. Uh, and I think it's interesting given like a lot of lore of like keeping balance, and if you accidentally like kill a guardian, it like disrupts it. There's like plagues and stuff that come of that. Ugh, constantly. Oh, oh, how terrible. Do you want him now? Really difficult if you're just like, hey, your parents like, yeah, I was like your parents like abandoned you to be killed by wild animals, and you survived despite it. Yes, where's the bell coming from? Have you? That got a reaction. Interesting that he's like part of the reason he travels, which we never really got a reason for, is that he attracts Mushi. And he's like, oh, I don't want them to nest around me. Interesting, we got a reaction from him though of like, oh, I attract Mushi. And he's like, hmm, I'm just suspicious of this guy. I don't want to be suspicious of another Mushi-shi, but here I am. I don't know. I'm just like him being like, oh, I fell and hurt my foot. And I'm like, conveniently. Don't trust it. Not far enough in the episode for it to just be like, everything's fine now. Aw, I don't trust it. I feel like it's probably good, but also like we need a guardian. What's the bell? Okay, yes. So it's a Mushi thing? Okay. It's a lot of power. He's acting casual. That means we figured something out. There's something going on. And he's like, I don't want you to be part of this. Liar. I've learned enough about him that I'm like, when he's super serious and then he's just like, whatever, like, everything's fine. It's because he's figured something out and he's just like, I'm gonna keep you out of this. Especially since the little boy was like, oh, I haven't learned anything about that. He's like, okay, let's keep it that way. Stay out of it. Oh, little boy. I don't like that we cut to a black screen. I'm on edge, man. Ever since we got that like silhouette with the eyes, they were very intense because Ginko was poking around. I'm on edge. I feel like, yeah, we were working on summoning something and we got interrupted by Ginko showing up, but he's just like, I have to play the part. Apparently. That's what I said. I was like, convenient to have an injury. Oh. Okay. We're giving up the guardian spot? Oh, it was a boar. It was a really quick switch before. We basically like giving up our life, right? Swap. I'm assuming it's like, oh yeah, we said we are gonna eat the mountain. Is it just, yeah, is it just like losing their guardian? Gingo. We're getting a little desperate here. I get wanting to save someone's life. I get that he's like dealing with a bunch of like people being like, hey, if I just sacrifice my life, then how do we choose it? And like the last time that happened, he gave someone immortality, right? Last time someone was like, I'm going to sacrifice myself for the greater good. It feels like he is a little bit emotional about that particular line, which makes me wonder if there's like more backstory there. Especially since he said he attracts Mushi and they nest. Ginko, and he has to be like a little bit less reckless. Cool image though of him like almost being like erased. We look a lot younger. It's like a flashback. That's why he's younger. Ooh, that's why we had the reaction that we did. He feels similar. Did we do it on purpose? Not the like someone killed it by accident? Did we do it on purpose? And then he said, like, his wife didn't last long. Oh, or did she do it to make him stay? Oh. Oh, that is an unfortunate image. It's a desperate move. Rare that she didn't survive long, though. It's like snow. Interesting image to bring in again. Yeah, he looks like erased. Yeah. That's what I was saying before, like the image looked like he was being like erased, which is interesting. Yeah, so the Guardian is different now. Oh, poor thing though. But like very alone now because no one else remembers. Aw, the proud little smile though. Interesting to have the snow again. That seems to be like a continuous thing of like snow and rain. Yeah, you look like you have like some personal feelings there. With the whole like someone sacrificing themselves. Ooh, that's a big snake. It's kind of cute though. It's just a slumbering. Ooh, interesting to have stomach heaves and we have like the drum sound, right? Ooh, interesting. Like always, I loved it. I find this one really interesting because we're dealing with another Mushi-shi, right? Which is something that I don't think we've had. We've had like people who are kind of sort of understand Mushi and have some at least vague understanding of what's going on or are using Mushi for their own reasons, but we haven't really met someone who's like a parallel of Ginko. And I think that it's really interesting that we had that like reaction in the eyes when Ginko was like, oh, I can't stay in one spot because I attract Mushi. And they start to nest if I stay in one place for too long. And then having that reaction that carried over to the end where it was like the same basic, I think it was like the same line being said by this Mushi-shi as well. And I think that's really interesting to give some background of like why Ginko is traveling. It's something that I've said before. I'm like, I feel like he's running from something because he's just constantly on the move. And I feel like having this, if I stay in one place for too long, Mushi will start to settle in around me and like nest. So I have to keep going. I'm like, there's a backstory there because we learned that from something, right? Something happened that involved Mushi nesting around him. and that's part of the reason that we're constantly traveling. And him like having a cigarette that kind of repels them, but also he seems like it takes it personally when people are like, I'm going to sacrifice myself for the sake of saving like my village or like the people around me. Because that last time that happened, right, where it was like the seed, it was not only this like one person being like, oh, I can't keep sacrificing other people's lives. It like, if a life has to be sacrificed, it should be me and it should be the last one. And then Ginko is, I'm going to raise you from the dead and I'm going to give you immortality, which are two of the rules I'm not supposed to break as a Mushi-shi, and I'm going to do it anyway. And then this one, you can see the desperation coming through again of, I'm just going to latch myself to you as well. I'm going to like, force you to like separate from this mountain so that you don't end up having to like, trade your life in order for a new guardian to come in. And there's like a desperation to that. And it feels like that's part of the backstory too. I think that's interesting, especially since we got in the last episode his like doctor friend who like came back again. We're starting to build up some pieces of who Ginko is and bringing more of that into the stories that like carry over from episode to episode, which I find really fascinating. And yeah, like another episode that's like the morality mixed up with working with Mushi, right? Like a Mushi-shi who has a lot of respect for Mushi and like how the kind of like nature is supposed to balance itself out with Mushi, and then having someone who doesn't quite understand how Mushi work, who's kind of like in this desperation, ends up like killing one, and then that like messes up the order and everything because they're like, oh, I can use this Mushi to get what I want, even though perhaps that was from a place of, oh, I just care about this person, I perhaps love this person, I want to build a life with this person, and they want to stay here too, I can give them what they wish for by doing this, is not with a full understanding of what the consequences of that would be. Fascinating. I can't wait to learn more about Ginko, like all these little pieces that we're getting like throughout the episodes, and it's all like building together. I love like even how slow paced this is. There's a lot of room and like patience with the storytelling that I love, that we're still getting all these pieces that like you can thread together into a story of who he is. It isn't like we're getting a flashback episode that's giving us like all the pieces right away. Maybe we will at some point, but I find it fascinating that we have this parallel with this other Mushi-shi and what it means to grow old as a Mushi-shi, what sacrifices are involved with that. It's just fascinating. But I hope you enjoyed watching that along with me. You can click this place to go into my previous reactions, or you can subscribe so next time I post a Mushi-shi reaction, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.